Former FBI Director James Comey heading back to Capitol Hill Monday for more closed-door testimony about his role in the Russia investigation. Recently, Comey admitted he personally made the decision to send agents to the White House to interview Mike Flynn, which eventually led to charges against the former national security advisor.
Something I probably wouldn't have done or maybe gotten away with in a more organized investigation, a more organized administration, in the George W. Bush administration, for example, or the Obama administration. So if the FBI wanted to send agents into the White House itself to interview a senior official, you would work through the White House counsel, and there'd be discussions and approvals and who would be there. And I thought it's early enough. Let's just send a couple guys over.
Here to react, Wisconsin Congressman Sean Duffy and Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz, who's going to question Comey on Monday. I mean, Matt, this guy's basically saying he took advantage of the disorganization of the Trump White House and really went after and kind of set up Mike Flynn. If this is about Russia, why isn't he going after Russians? Why is he trying to tee up Americans?
Well, thanks for having me on, Jesse, though I will say I think this is the first time I've been the third most handsome person on any Fox broadcast with you and Duffy.
Oh, thank you. You know what? The Duffy takes the cake, though. I mean, look at that hair.
He's probably going to fire his comm staff for putting him on with us. But when it comes to Comey, I mean, you don't typically use the language "something I got away with" to describe something that is proper and good. Like, you never go home and say, "Hey, I got away with making it home before curfew." You know what I mean? You usually are getting away with things that are not right or not proper. And this will be the second time we bring Comey in, so it'll be like deja vu, but with all of the amnesia. It's kind of like when you combine deja vu with amnesia. Maybe he'll forget all of the things that he thought he was expected to tell us.
Yeah, it's amazing. He said, "I don't know, I don't remember, I forget," so many times. And for someone that basically investigated both presidential candidates at the same time, within a year of each other, and when you ask him a question about it, he doesn't know, Congressman Duffy. I thought he was supposed to be the smartest guy in the room with the most integrity.
Yeah, allegedly he's a guy who has a photographic memory as well. But here, there's only one of two choices. Either this is the biggest investigation that he has in his tenure as the FBI. He's going to investigate a presidential candidate, Donald Trump, and then the president, Donald Trump. Yeah. And here he comes to Congress, and basically he's a bumbling idiot, doesn't know anything that happened. And so we conclude one of two things. One, either he's stupid or he's lying to Congress. But you can't come in and say, "I don't recall or know any of the facts around the largest investigation that I've ever done in my tenure as the FBI director." It's laughable.
Right. And now we're hearing, Congressman Gaetz, about these after-action reports that were written about the Flynn interview. They were written 6 months after the fact, which is extremely fishy. And we already know that they went in there without a lawyer present for Flynn. They tried to kind of coax him and kind of keep him relaxed and keep him loose. And they had what he said to the Russian ambassador printed out. He didn't contradict anything. They never thought he was lying. How's he facing any time at this point? I don't get it.
I think President Trump should pardon Michael Flynn because he's not being called to account for any bad actions he committed with malice. It's largely a consequence of not remembering something or perhaps stating something in a different context. Even Comey said that there was no indicia of lying when Flynn originally met with these folks. Now, Jesse, compare that to Hillary Clinton, who had 9 lawyers present. Several of her lawyers that were present were actually fact witnesses that should not have been there. So for Hillary Clinton, they roll out the red carpet. They paved the yellow brick road to no consequence. But yet with Michael Flynn, someone who didn't even indicate that he was lying, according to James Comey, he's facing serious consequences. And I think the president could do right for justice by pardoning Michael Flynn.
All right, I'm glad you brought up the Clinton investigation. One second. I'm glad you brought that up, Congressman Duffy, because I want to ask you about this. We remember the time when everybody was trying to find these Page Strzok emails and texts, and there was like this 6-month gap where they couldn't find them at a very critical stage of the investigation. Well, finally, the, I guess, Inspector General issued a report and said, you know what? We lost them. When they turned out one device they couldn't find. The other couple devices they said were wiped clean. I think Mueller might have wiped one. The FBI wiped the other. Is that standard procedure?
No, of course it's not standard procedure. They should have retained those cell phones and the records of the text between Strzok and Page. But they didn't. But I think what you see, Jesse, is an utter disregard and respect for the process and the law, number one. But number two, I think the FBI has such contempt for Donald Trump winning this election, which is basically a contempt for the American people who elected him.
Good point.
They were willing to twist and contort the laws to actually try to prosecute him and implement that insurance plan to make sure that the electorate didn't have its way, that the FBI and the liberal progressive elites got their way to take Donald Trump out. And so whether it's the Russia investigation, whether it's collusion or campaign finance laws, they won't stop not looking for the truth. They won't stop until they take out Donald Trump.
And Congressman Gaetz, we're just hearing about Hillary. She said under oath that she did the email server for convenience, and she also blamed her husband, Bill Clinton. Wouldn't be the first time she blamed her husband for trouble. I'll give you the last word.
Yeah, you don't typically bleach something inadvertently. With Hillary Clinton,
oops, I bleached it.
That's not something that,
No.
that you typically do with technology. And so I think that with Hillary Clinton, you have someone who just fundamentally believed that the rules didn't apply to her, and you can understand why. For the Clintons, for decades, they've been able to evade consequence and have things kind of tilt in their favor. And it really is unfortunate that we didn't do more in this Congress to drill down, but I think there's more to come. Michael Horowitz is going to give additional reports on the media's influence in the FBI leaking stories and getting improper benefits as a result. So I think we'll see even more about how we can drain the swamp and get rid of some of the deep state entities that are working against our president.
All right, that sounds pretty juicy. All right, guys, I got to run. The three best-looking guys on television right now have to say goodbye.
You have the best hair, Jesse.
We'll see you later. Thank you very much.